As we all know, 9 out of 10 masters are deceived by their images and hearts, and their disciples are crazier than each other. Even the famous 5-star General MacArthur once said that after countless master-disciple relationships, the one to blame for the illness is none other than Lu Qingji. Welcome to the legend of master and disciple. The sickly disciple is pampered every day. Just how much of a Yandere is this disciple? The first time he saw his master, he was already crazily in love with him. It wasn't because of his master's unparalleled beauty, but because he saw the master's true feelings. Those eyes, born with an ominous nature, can see through the soul's intentions. He manipulates the human heart. Lu Qingji was originally a villainous male supporting character in a book. He is also the target of Luo Chu's mission after crossing into the book. Just because he had a spring dream all night, Luo Chu inexplicably dreamed of being pressed down and rubbed by the male supporting character Lu Qingji. Luo Chu then became the vicious master who bullied Lu Qingji in the book. Not only did she tease her originally upright and kind disciple in various ways, but she also held a grudge after being rejected by him, and she took the male lead as her disciple. Even the heart of Orange Juice was twisted, as the male lead cultivates. After days of torment by Luo Chu, Orange Juice was forced to fall into darkness, and became completely blackened. The malicious master Luo Chu was ultimately pierced through the heart by Orange Juice's arrow. As a time traveler, to save her life, originally, I didn't want to have any more ties with Orange Juice, but he happened to be bound to a cat system. He was forced to complete all the tasks of the malicious master, and the first task was at the disciple recruitment conference, to take the major villain, Lu Qingji, as his first disciple. With tears in his eyes, he embarked on his path to demise. He had just arrived at the conference site, when he heard the disciples report that the trial for recruitment at the Cloud Immortals mansion had already ended. Only one young man with a complete spirit root has passed all the tests this time. Disciples with complete spirit roots are extremely rare. The sect leader nodded in satisfaction. He signaled to quickly bring the person up. Before long, a ragged young boy appeared with his head down, but when he looked up, it startled everyone. His eyes were filled with fear. This is an ominous sign. At a glance, he recognized that he had sincerity. But even though he was the only disciple to pass this year, the sect master still rejected him outright. A person born under an ill omen, the Cloud Palace cannot accept. Please leave, young man. Upon hearing this, his body trembled. He hurriedly wanted to defend himself. But I've never harmed anyone. However, the people of the Immortal Mansion have no intention of speaking up for him. They insist on driving this ominous person away quickly. The boy's eyes are filled with sorrow. He had thought that cultivators would be different from others. They wouldn't treat him differently just because he is an outlier. Who would have thought that after all his efforts to come here, he would still get the same result? At this moment, the resentment that had built up in Lu Qingji's heart suddenly erupted. He scolded the old-fashioned ways in front of all the immortal masters of the Cloud Immortal Mansion. This completely angered one of the Wind Masters. Without any mercy, he struck him and sent him flying several meters. This made him, already battered and bruised, even weaker. At this moment, Luo Chu, who was watching the plot unfold, couldn't wait any longer. In the blink of an eye, the villain was about to lose his life. He showed panic and rushed towards Lu Qingji, wanting to help him up. Yet he heard the orange cat remind him to maintain his cold persona. With 2 clicks of his tongue, he retracted the worry on his face. With a cold expression, he continued walking towards the boy. He disdainfully spat out 2 words, so dirty. Little did he know, all his thoughts were clearly seen by Lu Qingji. Although Lu Qingji didn't understand why the ancestor wanted to save him, yet pretended to be indifferent and contemptuous. But upon seeing Luo Chu's gentle heart, he understood what he should do. He hid the smile at the corner of his mouth. Then he put on an innocent look. He wiped his hands clean with force. 2 lines of clear tears fell. He whispered humbly that he was too dirty. He would dirty the immortal's clothes. The immortal doesn't like dirtiness. And his actions indeed grasped Luo Chu's compassionate heart. Luo Chu crouched down in front of him, gently reaching out to him. Come with me. After saying that, she embraced the filthy boy in her arms. At this moment, Luo Chu was filled with heartache, but she couldn't see the hint of a victorious smile on Lu Qingji's face, which was full of grievance and pity. After comforting him for a long time, Luo Chu finally let him go slowly. Do you have a name? The young man stammered. I don't have a name. Luo Chu felt a pang of sadness. Gently, she stroked the young man's head. A gentleman of joy, Furly Orange Juice. From today onwards, you shall be called Orange Juice. I hope you have a smooth and happy life, and can save all beings with your good deeds. Looking at the gentle fairy before her, Orange Juice's eyes gradually brightened. Joyfully, she took the initiative to hug Luo Chu. I like this name. Thank you, immortal. Sudden ease caught Luo Chu off guard. Is this major reversal really that easy to pull off? In the next moment, he directly picked up the orange juice, and turned to throw down a challenge to everyone at the Cloud Immortal Manor. You don't want this disciple. I want the world to recognize the intention of Lu Cheng. With dual blue and yellow eyes, he will surely bring disaster to the fairy abode. I originally had no intention of taking his life. Letting him leave on his own was already showing mercy. He must not be allowed to remain. At this moment of standoff among the crowd, the master of Manhwa Feng proposed a compromise. If this young man must stay, a bloodletting ritual must be held to dispel misfortune. If he can endure this calamity, and eliminate the source of disaster within him, then he can be accepted as a disciple again. This would also silence the voices of the masses. However, the bloodletting ritual must last for a full 3 hours. At this moment, Lu Qingji was already barely breathing. How could she agree? However, just as Luo Chu was about to refuse, the system task came again. Not only did it require her to agree to one thing, but it also demanded that she personally bleed Lu Qingji. Luo Chu truly couldn't bear it. But at that moment, the boy in her arms actually pleaded actively. Trembling, I opened my mouth to say I am willing. I think about staying by the immortal side. Luo Chu sighed lightly in agreement. I concurred with the proposal of the Feng master of Manhwa. I will personally carry out the bloodletting ritual. But from now on, no one shall use matters of difference to humiliate my disciple. The ritual begins. Lu Qingji was locked onto the wooden frame. His wrists were both cut open. Fresh blood dripped down. Everyone in the fairy palace was discussing when he would run out of breath. Only his heart was unusually anxious. His eyes were fixed on the burning incense. He hoped it would burn out quickly. Finally, he waited for the moment the incense burned out. Luo Chu suddenly got up. With a swift spell, he severed the shackles binding Lu Qingji, and flew to his side, lifting him up. The blood ritual was complete. Luo Chu's task was also finished. Luo Chu hurriedly took Lu Qingji back to his main peak, and quickly cast a spell to heal him. Lu Qingji struggled to open his eyes. Master, have I completely severed ties with the past? Receiving a definite answer from Luo Chu, Lu Qingji smiled with relief. That's truly wonderful. Luo Chu's heart trembled. Don't worry, you'll be protected by your master from now on. Hearing this, Lu Qingji finally felt at ease and closed his eyes. Waking up again, disappointment lingered until late at night. A dryness settled in my throat. Hoarsely I asked, where is this? In the next moment, Luo Chu came in holding a bowl of medicine. Upon seeing him, the young boy's eyes once again welled up with tears. Crying, he called out for the immortal. Luo Chu sighed lightly. I never thought that the future villain would cry so much now. Slide his tears. Now you need to change your words. Lu Qingji asked rebelliously. Revisited for a while. Just changed my words to master. Luo Chu heard, smiling and nodding at him. Now the orange juice has turned gloomy. The whole person is hanging on. Luo Chu keeps calling master. Luo Chu unconsciously rubs the little one's head again. Alright, good. First, drink the medicine. Luo Chu personally feeds him the medicine, drinking orange juice, while peeking around. Is this house your home, master? Luo Chu naturally replied, it used to be my home, but now it's ours. Hearing this, the orange juice was once again released, pouncing into his arms. Thank you, master. I swear I will repay you well. I will never leave you. The young man's voice sounded both sincere and bright. Yet, Luo Chu couldn't see the dark light flickering in his eyes. At this moment, Lu Cheng had already made up his mind. He would live his whole life for his master. Except for the master. No one can make him die. After Luo Chu left, Lu Qingji lay in bed for a long time, unable to calm his emotions. He excitedly rolled around on the bed. Such a wonderful immortal has actually become his master. And his master alone. Who would have thought the bed couldn't handle his antics? With a crack, it split open. The bed collapsed, leaving Lu Qingji, who had never slept on a bed in days. Could beds really be this flimsy? What should I do? I don't know, that's the problem. Isn't not knowing a reason to ask my master. He quietly entered the study. At this moment, his master was already fast asleep. It was especially annoying to share a bed with that fat cat of my master. I picked up the fat cat and tossed it away. Then I climbed onto my master's bed. I snuggled into my master's blanket. I looked at my master's peaceful sleeping face. Breathing in my master's scent. Lu Qingji fell asleep happily, but the next day, I woke up feeling something was off. His back ached after a night of sleep. What was hanging on him? He turned his head and glanced. It completely woke him up. Orange juice. How did he get here? This scene reminded him of the last spring dream. His face instantly turned red, taking another look at the sleeping child, still drooling. What on earth is China thinking? The child is only 14 years old. How could he possibly have such thoughts? He must have been frightened. He doesn't dare sleep alone. But this clingy child is like a little fish. Luo Chu finally managed to pull him off the bed. Lu Qingji suddenly woke up. Luo Chu rubbed Zai Zai's head and signaled him to sleep a little longer. But Zai Zai just wanted to stay with his master. Being so clingy is not okay. Luo Chu pushed him away and ordered him to go to the back mountain to cultivate for half an hour. Come back after it's done. Although Lu Qingji was reluctant, he still obediently went along. However, as soon as he arrived at the back mountain, he was confronted and tormented by other disciples of the Foam sect. Lu Qingji did not want to waste words with others, but they were jealous of him because he had been accepted as a direct disciple by Luo Chua. Not only did they insult him verbally, but they also tore up the entry-level mental method given to him by his master. Having reached her breaking point, Lu Qingji could no longer endure. She looked up once more, her eyes filled with killing intent. Just as she was about to strike, she suddenly heard a soft sound behind her. It was the footsteps of her master. Lu Qingji slightly curled her lips, and in an instant she withdrew the murderous aura. He then appeared weak and easily bullied. A few disciples saw him transform in an instant. They not only surrounded him, punching and kicking, but also scolded him for being lowly by birth, unworthy to be a disciple of the esteemed Lord Luo Chu. The next moment, just as Lu Qingji had predicted, Luo Chu appeared before everyone. You say he is unworthy. Do you really think you are worthy of this? The disciples were trembling in their legs, intimidated by Luo Chu's aura. However, Luo Chu did not continue to teach them a lesson. Instead, he walked up to Lu Qingji and questioned, is this how you represent me as your master? Lu Qingji clearly did not expect his scheme to backfire. Luo Chu spoke admonishingly. Being weak and retreating will only make others more arrogant. Do you understand? Lu Qingji felt a sense of shame. In the next moment, Yating adjusted and understood. He propped himself up and stood, throwing a punch. All traces of weakness from before had vanished. In no time, he had taught that disciple who insulted him a good lesson. Until Luo Shu nodded in satisfaction. Lu Qingji finally stopped his actions. After driving away the troublemaking disciple, Lu Qingji certainly couldn't miss the chance to be with his master. Jiao's opportunity once again pounced into Luo Shu's arms, crying like a little puppy. Luo Shu sighed helplessly and pushed away the clingy Zai Zai. Patiently said to Qingji, since I have accepted you as my disciple, you are the best. In the future, if you encounter such things, you don't have to bear them alone. You can tell your master. Lu Qingji smiled brightly. Master, will you always be with me from now on? Of course. At this moment, Luo Chu thought the kid was anxious and fearful of being abandoned again. He readily answered his question, but he didn't expect that the big villain in the original text was not a simple child from the very beginning. When the master gives the apprentice a warm bed opportunity, that apprentice can directly collapse the bed. He, Lu Qingji, as a legendary figure and teacher of apprentices, once received a comment from Sister Man, as a 14-year-old boy. He is indeed a bit precocious, but I believe that according to the usual dynamics of master and apprentice, he will soon grow up and experience some subtle changes with his master. As MacArthur said, after Lu Qingji became Luo Chu's disciple, their warm and ordinary life as master and apprentice didn't last long. It was time for him to go down the mountain for training. 3 years have passed. Lu Qingji hasn't come back even once. Luo Chu, used to being pampered, has almost grown mushrooms on the main peak. Thinking of Zizai's thoughtful care, Luo Chu can't help but admire his wise strategy to live comfortably, to live happily. Indeed, clinging tightly to his thigh is the best strategy. As soon as the words fell, a cheerful youthful voice reached my ears, asking who the master wanted to hug the thigh of. Saying whoever comes, comes. Lu Qingji actually returned. After 3 years apart, the once small disciple has grown into a handsome young man. He approached Luo Chu with a smile, while calling out to the master. It has been a long time since I last saw my master. I really miss you, master. Excited, Luo Chu wanted to have a good chat with him, but he was suddenly pulled into a warm embrace by his disciple. In these 3 years, every day without seeing master felt like 3 autumns. Luo Chu was completely unaware of his disciple's feelings for him. He was held for the length of an incense stick. He still wouldn't let go firmly. Luo Chu pushed Lu Qingji away. You're already an adult. Why do you still like to act cute like when you were a child? Lu Qingji, who was pushed away, was stunned for a moment. The next moment, he heard a strange voice. Not only did Tian Tian change Luo Chu's master, but she also prepared lunch for the master. Lu Qingji suddenly felt sour. However, Luo Chu still hadn't noticed his abnormality. Softly introducing, she said, this is Zigui. I accepted him as a disciple 2 years ago. He is also your junior. Zigui cheerfully greeted, hello, senior brother. But Lu Qingji felt 100 discontents in his heart. His master actually had another dog disciple. I was so angry that I turned to leave. Even when Luo Chu actively invited him to dinner, he pushed her hand away. Master can eat by yourself. I'm tired. I'm going back to rest. Luo Chu had never seen Qing treat her this way. Unexpectedly, after 3 years apart, the obedient disciple had become distant with her. After Lu Cheng returned to Qingya Peak, he still took the initiative to take over all affairs on the peak. He cared for Luo Chu as thoroughly as before. However, because he was still feeling upset inside, his attitude towards Luo Chu was very distant. He didn't even want to say more than a few words. Lu Qingji was unwilling to engage. Luo Chu was feeling down. The villain's thoughts are hard to guess. Lu Qingji wore a cold expression towards his master. Inside, he felt even worse. With no one to confide in, he had no choice but to go to the bamboo forest to practice swordplay and vent his frustration. The sword of Lu Cheng is fierce and merciless. With a single swing, it unexpectedly garnered endless praise from a passerby in the bamboo forest. I was still excited to practice swordsmanship with my senior brother. But Lu Cheng was angry because of this extra junior brother. He kept pushing himself closer to me. Lu Cheng was even more annoyed. He swung his sword at the bamboo behind Jigui. Jigui was startled. Senior brother, do you not like me? Lu Cheng replied perfunctorily, no, but it made Zigui believe it was true. It's good that it wasn't. Although I have never met my senior brother, Master often talks to me about him. Hearing that makes me admire him so much. Upon hearing this, Lu Qingji hesitated and turned back. What did Master say to you? Zigui's smile is pure and kind. The Master said that senior brother not only looks good, but also takes everything seriously. Although he suffered a lot in childhood, senior brother is a truly good person. Lu Qingji blurted out just how good he is. Zigui opened his arms. He is so good. Seeing him so cute and innocent, Lu Qingji couldn't help but smile, putting aside past grievances. He ruffled Zigui's hair. I'll teach you sword practice next time. I have something to do today, so I'm leaving first. Lu Qingji immediately went to Luo Chu's room. Luo Chu was taking a nap. He quietly walked to the bedside. At this moment, the resentment in his heart had already dissipated. He murmured an apology to his master for the deliberate coldness over the past few days. But even though he understood that his master was not seeking someone new, the possessiveness in his heart still continued to swell. How could his master not tell him? When taking other disciples as students, Lu Qingji's thoughts were in disarray. Unconsciously, he climbed onto his master's bed just like when he was a child. He gazed at his master's sleeping face. He really wanted to kiss him. In the final moment, his reason, nearing the edge of collapse, stopped his eager heart. He respected his master. He loved his master, desired his master. Yet he didn't want to make his master angry. When Luo Chu woke up, Lu Qingji is no longer by his side. He doesn't know what has happened. It has been a long time since he slept so peacefully. He has just caught his breath. Then the system task pops up before him. The next task surprisingly requires him to personally use the cold spring umbrella on Lu Orange Juice. The disciple is rolling on the bed with the master's clothes. When he opens his eyes, the master is unexpectedly standing right in front of him. Lu Qingji nervously played the strings. At this moment, Luo Chu's emotions were in turmoil. He had just accepted the task of giving his disciple the cold spring umbrella. Who would have thought that before he even started? His disciple was already smitten. The situation became quite awkward. After a long time, Luo Chu forced himself to act as if nothing was happening. Sorry to interrupt. I'll leave right now. But unexpectedly, this disciple took the initiative to grab the master's hand. Not feeling ashamed at all. Master, don't go. Witnessing such an astonishing disciple, my face was burning hot. Cheng, let me go first. The orange juice is crisp, saying a clear no. He pulls the master closer. Master, I like you. He shows a clever smile. He reaches out to push him away. In a panic, his little hand trembles. Unexpectedly, the cold spring umbrella hidden in his sleeve falls out. With a bang, orange juice spilled all over the floor. I crouched down to pick it up. At this moment, Han Chun's expression was only one of shock for a moment. It quickly turned to anger. Did the master secretly bring this item to use on the disciple? Luo Chu's face turned even redder when exposed, shouting back loudly. That's not the kind of him I see. Lu Cheng is even bolder, leaning close to Luo Chu's blushing ear, whispering, Master, don't try to deceive me. This is the first time you've lied to your disciple. Hearing his words fall out, a sudden jolt in my heart. He was able to easily see through my thoughts. Doesn't that make everything before just orange juice? Do you know something else? Lu Qingji played with the master's hair, gently asking the master back. Do you know why people fear the blue and yellow heterochromia? They claim that my eyes are inherently ominous. They wish they could kill quickly. In truth, they are afraid. Afraid that Lan Huang Yidong can see through their souls. No one wants their inner thoughts to be exposed. Lu Qingji's nonchalance makes it seem like just an ordinary matter. He gently brushes Luo Chu's face. Luo Chu feels a chill run down her back. He said this. Wouldn't he have realized long ago that he is not the original Luo Chu? Lu Qingji didn't give him a chance to respond. He raised the Han Chan umbrella and moved closer. Master, why did you sneak into your disciple's room in the middle of the night? Do you still want to use medicine on your disciple? Luo Chu couldn't reply a single word. And Lu Qingji was clearly very aware of this. Yet you still want to take the opportunity to tease him. If you really can't think of a reason, then it's just that you were momentarily blinded by desire. You want to taste your disciple's charm. You're talking nonsense. I'm not. Then let's say it's the disciple who covets the master's beauty. Lu Qingji lowered her head. He kissed her recklessly. Luo Chu tensed her body. She even momentarily forgot how to breathe. She could still hear Orange Juice continuously saying how much he liked his master. Luo Chu couldn't hold back any longer. How dare this rebel be so reckless? Orange Juice, what are you trying to do? Wake up. Luo Chu was about to explode with anger. Orange Juice's attitude remains unchanged. Even when apologizing, they hold on to the master without letting go. Seeing the rebellious disciple approach again, Luo Chuxin felt flustered. With the plot falling apart like this, is everything really okay? And Lu Qingji finally noticed the master's anxiety, and withdrew his hand, no longer continuing. It seems this time he was the anxious one. Lu Qingji let go of Luo Chu, suddenly reached out to cast a spell. I revealed only a stunning memory, and under his strange power, I fell into a deep sleep. The unpleasant thing is, it's better if the master forgets. Then Lu Qingji's expression turned cold. He leaned towards the corner where Feiju was eavesdropping. That Han Chan San was given to your master. This is definitely the first system that the male lead saw through at a glance. Feiju was at a loss. I didn't expect he could even see the cat's inner thoughts. To save his life, Feiju hurriedly pointed to the sky. No, it's not me. It's him, Lu Qingji, looking up. Lost in thought. Is it the way of heaven? So it is the way of heaven. Upon hearing this news, Lu Qingji felt a trace of disappointment in his heart. He carefully placed his master back on the bed. He whispered softly to the sleeping figure, Master, you must not entice your disciple like tonight again. The next day, Luo Chu woke up as usual, and had breakfast with her disciples. She completely forgot about what happened last night. The only thing that seemed a bit off was that Fei Ju looked a bit down. But remembering the villain's threat, The little system didn't dare to bring it up with Luo Chu. It directly and nervously helped Luo Chu skip the Han Chan-san task. The next task, at the Immortal Alliance Conference, in front of Lu Qingji, accept the male lead, Xiao Chen, as a disciple, and personally grant him the Kunwu sword. His expression immediately turned serious. He knows the Immortal Alliance Conference is the turning point of the entire book. The male lead, Xiao Chen, wins the conference, and capture the heart of the female lead, Umo Li. From this moment on, Lu Qingji would begin a life of daily torment by the malicious sect master. Thinking of this, Luo's expression turned melancholic. In a month, all the disciples of the sect will participate in the Immortal Alliance Conference. Qingji must feel the pressure. Luo initially wanted to comfort him in advance. Just do your best. The ranking doesn't matter. After all, the ending of the male lead winning has long been predetermined in the book. Unexpectedly, upon hearing this, Lu Qingji found his master's worried expression to be really cute. To make his master happy, he had to win this championship. On the day the Immortal Alliance Conference began, Lu Qingji easily advanced all the way, breaking through the barriers to enter the finals, competing for the top position against young Master Xiao Chen of the Xiao family. What surprised everyone was, Lu Qingji actually defeated the Chosen One and won. Xiao Chen easily claimed the top spot, but he only wanted to hear his master's praise quickly. Unbeknownst to him, at that moment, his master in the stands was in a dilemma. His task is to accept Xiao as a disciple, and to bestow the Kunwu sword upon him. Accepting a disciple is one thing, but the Kunwu sword is the reward for first place. Now Lu Qingji has come in first, yet he wants to insist on giving the sword to Xiao Chen in front of him. Isn't that putting someone in a difficult position? I saw the sect leader raise the Kunwu sword in front of Lu Qingji. Lu Qingji stretched out his hands to thank the master. Unexpectedly, as the master was about to put down the sword, he was interrupted by someone rushing onto the stage. Seeing the master take away the Kunwu sword, Lu Qingji smiled happily. The master must want to personally award me. As a disciple, I got first place, waiting for the master to praise me. But the master not only ignored him directly, but also presented the reward that originally belonged to him to the second place, and wanted to take the second place as a disciple. This is because the second place is the male lead of fortune in the original book. Even though Lu Qingji defeated Xiao Chen and became the champion, Luo Chu still had to follow the development of the original book. Lu Qingji questioned the master in disappointment. Xiao Chen was also quite anxious. Becoming a disciple of Lord Luo Chu, he was naturally willing. But this Kunwu sword spirit was given to brother Lu. Luo Chu's expression was cold. This sword does not suit him. He will have other options. Qingji, what do you think? Lu Qingji walked over with a cold face. Seeing that he had been silent for a long time, he revealed his inner panic. Such unfair treatment. Qingji must be very disappointed right now. Unexpectedly, the next moment, Lu Qingji actually looked up with a smile. It's just a sword. The master can give it to anyone. The crowd was in an uproar. They were discussing whether this orange juice was crazy or just foolish. That is the ancient divine sword Kunwu that everyone fights over. Luo Chu was completely unaware of the danger beneath the benefits of Lu Cheng. She only felt that the city was truly endearing. Then she handed the Kunwu sword to Xiao Chen. At that moment, a voice of indignation suddenly came from the crowd. Since brother Lu has become the champion of the tournament, he should rightfully bestow the Kunwu sword to that esteemed one. How can this sword be given to someone else? Luo Chu is confused. Later, this girl named Huan Yuan Mo Li is indeed the original female lead. Once the female lead says this, the sect master also nods in agreement. This action does indeed have construction approval. If she falls into a passive position, continuing like this, her mission is likely to fail. But with her good disciple, Lu Qingji, around, how could she bear to let her master be in a dilemma? Lu Qingji took the Kunwu sword, and generously handed it to Xiao Chen. A radiant smile. I wish to give you the Kunwu sword. Junior brother, just take good care of it. Even so, a warm smile emerged. But a chill rose behind it. The moment Xiao Chen received the sword's body burst forth with brilliant light. The sect leader smiled with satisfaction as the Kunwu sword took the initiative to recognize its master. It seems this sword is indeed fated to be with Xiao Chen. Moreover, Lu Qingji also agrees with this course of action. Let's leave it at that. Everyone was just about to head home, but Miss Yuan was not pleased again. Yuan Moli's expression was grim. This sword absolutely cannot be given to Xiao Chen. It turns out he is a reborn person. In his previous life, he was caught up in love and missed the infatuated male lead, Lu Qingji. In the end, his fate with Xiao Chen was not a happy one. In his past life, Xiao Chen used the Kunwu sword to kill the big villain Lu Qingji. Although they weathered storms and became a couple, Xiao Chen couldn't forget his deceased first love, Luo Chuzhen. He was obsessed every night with women who resembled Luo Chu. In this life, Yuan Moli vowed never to repeat the same mistakes. And at this moment, Luo Chu, facing the suddenly appeared naive female lead, I find myself at a loss. You said absolutely not to let Xiao Chen see her. Why not? Yuan Moli was left speechless by the question. He leaned closer to Lu Qingji, hoping for help. However, this lifetime's Lu Qingji was completely indifferent to his advances. Instead, he was focused on watching his master, and then suddenly smiled foolishly at the master, gave him a knowing glance. Thinking to herself, your crush is already making a move. Why can't you get a clue? But Lu Qingji thought the master had something in his eye. She leaned in to blow in his eye. Yuan Moli was about to explode with anger. He was a dog in a previous life. Why is he so cold to him? Yet so friendly to that malicious master. Luo Chu took the initiative to distance herself from Lu Qingji, to avoid making Yuan Moli feel uncomfortable. Thinking that since the heroine is being so proactive this time, he might as well go along with it. Luo Chu skipped over the topic of the Kunwu sword, and directly asked Yuan Moli, are you willing to be my disciple? The crowd was once again stunned. What's going on here? Such a move changed the expression of Lu Qingji, who had just been cheerful. In order to gain the chance to get close to Lu Qingji, Yuan Moli nodded and said yes. Luo Chu was very pleased. Now all the main characters have become his disciples. Even if the conflict in Lu City turns dark in the future, he will still have some assurance. Luo Chu returned to Qingya Feng with her disciples. At this moment, the original male lead, Xiao Chen, looked bewildered. He always felt that this original young lady had a strong hostility towards him. After returning to Qingya Feng, it continued until nightfall. After holding in his thoughts for a day, Lu Qingji secretly sneaked into the master's room as usual. With a heart full of mischief but lacking the courage, he touched his master's face and questioned him. You already have me. Why do you still want to take in some strays as disciples? Since your love is so abundant, why not just give it all to your disciple? Lu Qingji obsessively murmured to his sleeping master. Master, your disciple loves you. I truly love you so much. Suddenly, a dark figure appeared behind him. The shadow made a series of eerie sounds. Lu Qingji, he doesn't care about you at all. Why do you bother to deceive yourself in front of his bed every night? Lu Qingji's expression darkened. How could you be here? The shadow grew even more rampant. As long as the blood of the demon clan flows in your veins, no matter when, no matter where, I can always find you as a half-demon. And this woman will only become a stumbling block for you to become the supreme powerhouse. Kill her quickly. Kill everyone here. You are the supreme of the demon clan. Lu Qingji, however, remained completely unmoved. He decisively drew his sword. He cleaved through the black gleam. Get back to your abyss of demons. No matter who you are, You cannot lay a finger on the supreme. But that shadow was not something that could be killed by mere mortals. Its voice still echoed in Lu Qingji's ears. You can't kill me. If you insist on making a move, your beloved master will suffer. Lu Qingji's heart sank. He looked at the person on the bed. At this moment, she had her eyes tightly closed. She trembled, continually mumbling about the pain. It hurt so much. Lu Qingji was so anxious that he pressed himself against the master. He cursed that shadow baby, but the shadow continued to threaten him. You can consider my suggestion now. After saying this, the shadow vanished into thin air, leaving behind a furious orange juice and Luo Chu, who lay in bed trapped in a nightmare. At that moment, Luo Chu dreamed of the thing he feared most in this life, his disciple sneaking into his bed every night, sneaking away quietly before dawn. But that night, the master had a nightmare. He was locked up all over by cold iron chains. It was clearly a dream, but the pain coming from his body was incredibly real. Looking up, a familiar figure approached quickly. Lu Qingji had a familiar smile on his face, but his voice was extremely cold. I didn't expect the master's life to be so tough. He's still not dead. In the next moment, the disciple drew out a weapon, and pressed it against the master's throat. Ha, die. With a swish, Luo Chu woke up in fear. A chilling dread washed over him. For a moment, I couldn't distinguish between dreams and reality. Seeing Lu Qingji approaching me, I pushed his hand away. Don't touch me. Lu Qingji was utterly astonished. What on earth did the master dream about? Thankfully, he fears me so much. Luo Chu sat on the bed, unable to calm down for a long time. Finally calming down his emotions, he realized that his earlier actions were inappropriate. He grabbed his disciple's hand to apologize. The orange juice must have hurt you, right? Lu Qingji showed no signs of grievance, gently grasping his master's hand in return. With a bright smile, he seemed completely opposite to the one in Luo Chu's dream. It's okay, master. I don't feel any pain at all. Luo Chu awkwardly withdrew his hand. He changed the subject, suddenly mentioning the conference yesterday. He had just accepted Xiao Chen and Yuan Mo Li as his disciples. It would be more suitable for them to move up to Qinya Peak to live together. What Luo Chu said was grand and impressive, but still carried a hint of selfishness. After that nightmare, Luo Chu felt increasingly uneasy. He thought having 2 more people around would provide extra security. Little did he know that this would only provoke and teach his disciple possessiveness. Lu Qingji kept his head down, mumbling to himself. After a long while, he finally looked up with a smile. The master is right. I understand everything, master. Then I no longer give Luo Chu a chance to respond. Suddenly, I stand up. I take the initiative to handle the task of tidying up the room. Upon seeing Luo Chu's shadow, I immediately turn around. With a sullen face, I stride away. Yet, he had already made up his mind to ask the master for a reward. Lu Qingji arrived at the dormitory. He painstakingly tidied up the room for the soon-to-arrive junior brothers and sisters. Luo Chuchen saw him working hard. She voluntarily brought him some tea and reminded him to take a break. Just as she was about to leave, she caught a glimpse of a big monster hiding under the table. Luo Chuchen had been most afraid of mice her entire life. He was so scared that he cast a spell, and directly split the table. But this mouse was unusually agile. Indeed, Luo Chu's continuous attacks didn't land a hit. At that moment, Lu Qingji walked in to comfort his startled master. Luo Su reflexively dove into his disciple's arms. Qingji, quickly catch him. Release the culprit behind the mouse. Lu Qingji never expected that the usually imposing master Luo Chuzen would be so afraid of a mere beast. He originally just wanted his master to ask for help. Unexpectedly, the effects turned out to be so good. Lu Qingji smiled with satisfaction. Master, don't worry. I'm here for you. The scheming disciple tightly hugs the master, gently conjures a spell, and just like that, the mouse meets its end, taking quite a bit of advantage. Only then does Lu Cheng let Luo Chu go. Master, don't be afraid. You can open your eyes now. Luo Chu lets out a long sigh of relief. Facing the disciple with a radiant smile, Luo Chu awkwardly turns around. This time is really embarrassing. Lu Qingji's smile is even more pronounced than the master's. Don't worry, disciple. You didn't see anything just now. Luo Chu is so embarrassed that she feels like she has no place. Lu Qingji seizes the opportunity to tease the master. You should really take care of your disciple. Disciple really didn't see anything. Lu Qingji understands that master has a thin face, and besides, he got a good deal. Seeing the opportunity, Lu Cheng's claws asked master if he wanted to try the dessert of my zodiac. With a way out, Luo Chu also relaxed. Then, I suppose I'll have a taste. In this round, the scheming disciple Zhang Qi has mastered the balance. He easily takes control of the master. He wins effortlessly. A few days later, a new trial begins for the disciples at the Cloud Immortal Mansion, the ancient underworld dungeon. It is also the key plot point in the original text where Lu Qingji falls into darkness. Originally, this trial was supposed to be attended only by the disciples, but the revealing master unexpectedly transforms into the form of the female disciple Zhang Qianqian, lurking beside Lu Qingji, only to prevent the plot from repeating itself. However, Luo Chu believed that his disguise was flawless. Even if it deceived the sect leader's eyes, it still couldn't escape Lu Qingji's notice. Lu Qingji just glanced at Sister Zhang, and immediately noticed something unusual about him. So, in front of everyone, Brother Lu, who usually never pays attention to female disciples, actually took the initiative to hold Sister Zhang's hand. I really didn't expect Sister Zhang to participate in this training as well. Luo Chu was momentarily surprised. I didn't expect my disciple to be so open in public. He chuckled and called out to Brother Lu. To his surprise, upon hearing this title, Lu Qingji leaned in even closer. He lowered his voice and asked his senior back. Luo Chu's head was buzzing. She felt that her disguise could never be seen through. Just as she wanted to reply, Lu Qingji wisely took the initiative to step back. It was Luo Chu's first time seeing him flirting. She never expected that the obedient disciple in front of the master was actually a master in the field of romance outside. Suddenly, the leader called for silence, and pulled everyone's thoughts back. He raised his hand to cast a spell. A huge formation appeared out of nowhere beneath his feet. With a call, the trial began. Guan Quan joined in. On the first layer, atop a gloomy and dilapidated city tower, the large characters of Huajian Country 3 are particularly eye-catching, as everyone is at a loss for what to do. Lu Qingji took Zhang Shimi's hand. Ignoring the perfectly fine master, she insisted on being the junior sister to the sickly disciple. On the surface, she claimed it was to complete the system task, but in reality, she was still worried about the physical and mental health of her eldest disciple. Little did she know that despite Luo Chu's perfect disguise, in the end, Lu Qingji, who is addicted to his love for his master, cannot be deceived. His master has been so scheming to offer it for free. Naturally, Lu Qingji cannot miss this opportunity to be a good senior brother. When it was time to assign rooms that night, he even took the initiative to request to share a room with Xiao Shimi. The other disciples found this absurd. Men and women should not be intimate. How could you sleep in the same room? Lu Qingji looked righteous and stern. I consider that Zhang Shimi is a novice. In danger, she cannot protect herself. I shared a room with her to ensure her safety. The weak Zhang Shimi was unable to refute this. Unexpectedly, once inside the room, Lu Qingji became even bolder. He directly pulled her into his embrace. Luo Chu only felt that this little brat had ulterior motives. She pulled her hand back, wanting to push him away. But he unexpectedly held her down at the door and pulled her up sharply. Luo Chu was so shocked that she couldn't speak. She had actually been kissed by her disciple. Lu Qingji mumbled junior sister under his breath. But in his heart, he was calling out for his master. Luo Chu had calculated everything. I didn't expect my disciple to be such a playboy who kisses anyone he meets. With a swift motion, I slapped him and angrily scolded him. At that moment, Lu Qingji covered the side of his face that was slapped and smiled apologetically. Junior sister looks quite similar to my old friend. I couldn't help myself. I offended junior sister. I truly apologize. Luo Chu listened to this absurd excuse. Angrily muted. You will sleep on the floor tonight. If you dare to raise it again, I will never spare you. Luo Chu, pouting, crawled into bed. As soon as her head hit the pillow, she fell asleep. When Lu Qingji finished washing up and returned, seeing the sleeping master, my feelings are quite complicated. I just had to go through such an intimate experience. How can he fall asleep so quickly? The master really has no guard up at all. Lu Qingji consciously crawls into the master's bed. The long night can only be spent with the master. Sleeping until noon. A strange laughter suddenly came from outside the house. He was jolted awake. He turned around. To his surprise, Lu Qingji was leaning on the bed. But at that moment, he couldn't care less about why this brat was climbing onto the bed. He quickly covered Lu Qingji's mouth. Don't make a sound. Did you hear anything? His master rarely took the initiative to get close to Lu Qingji. How could I care about anything else? I definitely heard a sound. I did hear it. There was a woman laughing. Lu Qingji shook her head and leaned close to Luo Chu's chest. What I heard was my junior sister's heartbeat. Luo Chu felt both shy and angry. Is this sweet-talking person really his obedient disciple? Get out of bed. Ignore him. Push open the window. Look down with lowered eyes. Midnight. The dark street is unexpectedly accompanied by a joyous event. A sudden shock in my heart. Close the window and turn around. The orange juice seems off outside. Come with me to check it out. The orange juice lightly replied to listen to the junior sister, but didn't expose it. Showed that they forgot to change the window. The master got anxious. Couldn't help but call out to the orange juice. Such a cute master who pretends to be someone else and reveals flaws. The two of them went downstairs and found that many disciples who had come for training were already here. With a sudden, wild sound, the citizens in the city suddenly began to attack. The disciples raised their vigilance, hiding in concealed places. Lu Qingji gazed at the hollow-eyed crowd outside, and calmly spoke. They are no longer living people. Someone is manipulating all of this from behind. This country is called Huaqian. It was destroyed 300 years ago. Everything we see here is an illusion. Having said that, Lu Qing knew to stop. In the distance, among the crowd, Yuan Moli, who had just been injured by the townspeople, has already been assimilated, and joined their ranks. Repeatedly in their mouths was the perfect match of the princess and General Chu. They marched in unison, following the joyous procession to the palace. For a long time, the General Chu they spoke of appeared, dressed in red wedding attire. He slowly descended from the city tower. The moment he appeared, the once dull Kunwu sword of the male protagonist hummed with energy, and the Kunwu divine sword only reacts like this when it senses demonic energy. In other words, General Chu has gone mad. He solemnly bent down to lift the bride from the sedan chair. Just then, a gust of cold wind lifted the bride's veil, revealing a horrifying skull. Everyone was instantly horrified. Yet, General Chu did not stop for a moment. He continued straight towards the palace. Seeing this, the townsfolk also followed the general to the palace. If he realizes that something is wrong, he remembers that the ending of the painting in Huajian country is that the general sacrifices 10,000 lives to resurrect the tragically deceased princess. And now, Yuan Moli is still in danger among the commoners. The disciples rush into the palace to save her. However, as soon as they enter the main hall, a mysterious black mist rises in the palace. Everyone gets separated. Fortunately, Lu Qingji held onto Luo Chu's hand all the way. They were not separated. But unexpectedly, the black mist became even more rampant in the next moment. In a moment of distraction, they were separated on the spot. Luo Chu wanted to pull Lu Qingji back, but the forces of the two streams of black mist kept pulling in opposite directions. With just their own strength, they couldn't break free at all. Just then, a voice from within the mind system was heard. Hidden storyline triggered. The past of Huajian Kingdom. The host will become Princess Wensheng of Huajian Kingdom from 300 years ago. Experience her past firsthand. Princess Wensheng once worked to provide for the needy during a famine. She saved a boy who was about to starve to death. He was named Chu Jia. This young man never forgets the princess's great kindness. He joined the army and achieved great military success. Later, he was titled the Grand General of the nation. The love story between the princess and the general is truly an enviable tale. But this occurred during the chaotic times of the Flower Kingdom. The fate of the nation was uncertain. The destinies of these two were doomed to be difficult and fraught with challenges. When Luo Chu awoke once more, she had already become Princess Wensheng. Although her consciousness remained, she could not interfere with Princess Wensheng's original actions. The first thing Wensheng did upon waking was to secretly leave the palace to find Chu Jia. However, what surprised Luo Chu was that at this moment, Chu Jia in Huajian country had an identical face to Lu Qingji. As everyone knows, 9 out of 10 masters are deceived by superficial appearances, and their disciples are even more insane than each other. Even the famous 5-star General MacArthur once said that after countless apprentices, the one most worthy of blame is still Lu Qingji. Welcome to the legend of master and apprentice. The sickly apprentice is spoiled every day. Just how sickly is this apprentice? The moment he saw his master, he was already madly in love with him. Not because of his master's extraordinary looks, but because he saw the voice of his master. His pair of eyes, born with ominous gifts, can see through the soul's intentions. He manipulates human emotions. Lu Qingji was originally a villainous supporting character in a book, and also the target of Luo Chu, who traveled into the book. It all started after a night of spring dreams, where she inexplicably dreamed of being pinned down and rubbed against by the male lead, Lu Qingji. Luo Chu dressed up as the malicious master who cruelly bullied Lu Qingji in the book. Not only did she tease her originally honest and kind disciple in various ways, but she also held a grudge after being rejected. She took the male lead as her disciple instead. She even bent Lu Qingji's heart, writing about the male lead's cultivation. After day by day of Luo Chu's torment, Lu Qingji was forced to fall into darkness, completely darkened. The malicious master Luo Chu was ultimately pierced through the heart by Lu Qingji's arrow and died. As a time traveler, to save his life, he originally didn't want to have any further interactions with Lu Qingji, but he was unexpectedly bound to. The only orange cat system, forced to complete all the tasks of the malicious master. And the first task was at the disciple recruitment conference. The villain Lu Qingji of Jianga has taken his first disciple. With tears in his eyes, he embarks on his path to demise. He had just arrived at the venue when he heard his disciple report. The trial for disciples at the Cloud Immortal Mansion has concluded. This time, only one young man with a complete spiritual root passed all the tests. Disciples with complete spiritual roots are extremely rare. The sect leader nodded in satisfaction, indicating to bring the person up quickly. Not long after, a tattered young boy appeared with his head lowered. But when he looked up, everyone was taken aback. His eyes were like those of a wolf. This is an ominous sign. At a glance, he was recognized as Qingji. But even though he was the only disciple to pass this year, the sect leader still outright rejected him. A person born under an ill omen cannot be received by the celestial abode. Please go back, young one. Upon hearing this, the boy trembled. He hurriedly wanted to defend himself. But I've never harmed anyone. However, the people of the celestial abode undoubtedly spoke against him, determined to drive this ill-fated person away quickly. The boy's eyes were filled with sorrow. He originally thought that cultivators would be different from others. They wouldn't look at him differently just because he was an outsider. Who would have thought that after all his efforts to come here, he would still face the same outcome? At this moment, the resentment that had built up in Lu Qingji suddenly erupted. In front of all the immortals at the Cloud Immortal Mansion, he scolded them for being narrow-minded. This, however, completely angered one of the Wind Lords. Without hesitation, he struck Lu Qingji, sending him flying several meters. This made him, already battered and bruised, even weaker. At this moment, Luo Chu, who was following the plot, could no longer wait. In just the blink of an eye, the villain was about to lose his life. Luo Chu hurriedly ran towards Lu Qingji, wanting to help him up. But he heard the orange cat remind him to maintain his aloof persona. He retracted the worry on his face with a couple of clicks. With a cold expression, he continued walking towards the boy. Disdainfully, he spat out two words, so dirty. Unbeknownst to him, his inner thoughts were completely seen through by Lu Qingji's eyes. Although Lu Qingji did not understand why his ancestor clearly wanted to save him, he still pretended to be indifferent and contemptuous. Upon seeing Luo Chu's gentle heart, he realized what he needed to do. He hid the smile at the corner of his mouth. With an innocent look on his face, he vigorously wiped his hands clean. 2 lines of tears streamed down. He whispered humbly that he was too dirty, and would dirty the immortal's clothes. The immortal doesn't like dirt. And his actions, indeed, tugged at Luo Chu's heartstrings. Luo Chu crouched down in front of him. She gently reached out to support him. Come with me. After saying this, she pulled the dirty boy into her embrace. At this moment, Luo Chu felt a pang of heartache. Yet, she couldn't see the smug smile that flashed across Lu Qingji's pitiful face. After covering him for a long time, Luo Chu slowly released him. Do you have a name? The young man stammered. And no name. Luo Chushin felt a sense of loss. Gently stroked the boy's head. Gentleman Luo, wipe your shoes, orange juice. From today on, you shall be called Orange Juice. I hope you have a smooth and happy life, and that you can save all beings through your good deeds. Looking at the gentle immortal before me, Orange Juice's eyes gradually brightened. Joyfully, she took the initiative to hug Luo Chu. I like this name. Thank you, immortal. Suddenly, Luo Chu was stunned by the ease of it. Is it really this easy to pull off such a major reversal? In the next moment, he directly picked up Lu Qingji. He turned and warned the people of the Cloud Immortal Mansion that they shouldn't want this disciple. If I want him, then it's decided. Lu Qingji's dual-colored eyes of blue and yellow will definitely bring disaster to the Immortal Mansion. I had no intention of taking his life. Letting him leave on his own is already showing mercy. He must not be allowed to stay. As everyone was at a standstill, the Wind Master of Nanyu Peak proposed a compromise. If this young man insists on staying, he must undergo a bloodletting ritual. If he can survive this calamity, the source of trouble within him will be eliminated. If Ruochu takes him as a disciple again, it can silence the gossip of the crowd. But the bloodletting ritual must last for a full 3 hours. At this moment, Lu Qingji is already on the verge of death. How can she agree? However, just as Luo Chu was about to refuse, the system task arrived again. It not only required his consent to one matter, he also needs to personally let Lu Qingji bleed. Luo Chu truly felt reluctant. But at that moment, the boy in his arms actually took the initiative to plead. Trembling, he spoke. I am willing. I think I want to stay by the immortal's side. Luo Chu sighed softly. He agreed to the suggestion of the Lord of Nanhua. I will personally handle the graduation ceremony. But from now on, no one will dare to humiliate my disciple over differences. The ceremony begins. Lu Qingji is locked onto the wooden frame. His wrists are both cut open. Blood drips down incessantly. Everyone in the immortal abode is discussing when he will run out of breath. Only the heart that has fallen out is unusually anxious. Her eyes were fixed on the burning incense. She hoped it would burn out quickly. Finally, she waited for the moment the incense extinguished. Luo Chu suddenly rose. With a swift spell, she severed the chains binding Lu Qingji. She flew to his side. She scooped him up. The blood ritual was complete. Luo Chua's task was also completed. Luo Chua hurriedly brought Lu Qingji back to her main peak. She quickly cast a spell to heal him. Lu Qingji struggled to open his eyes. Immortal, have I completely severed ties with my past now? Receiving a reassuring answer from Luo Chua, Lu Qingji smiled with relief. Truly good. Luo Chua's heart trembled in response. Don't worry, your master will protect you in the future. Upon hearing this, Lu Qingji finally felt at ease and closed his eyes. When he woke up again, it was already late at night. His throat felt dry. He hoarsely asked, where is this? At that moment, Luo Shu came over with a bowl of medicine. As soon as he saw him, the young boy's eyes brimmed with tears again. He cried out for the immortal. Luo Shu sighed softly. He never imagined that the future villain would be like this now, sobbing and reaching out to wipe his tears. Now you should change your words. Lu Qingji asked back in confusion. After hesitating for a while, he finally managed to change his words to the master. Luo Chuan smiled and nodded at him. Now Lu Qingji was feeling gloomy. He became completely despondent. Luo Chuan kept calling him master. Luo Chu unconsciously rubbed the child's head again. Alright, good boy. First, drink your medicine. Luo Chu personally fed him the medicine. While drinking, Lu Qingji peered around curiously. Master, is this house yours? Luo Chu naturally responded. It used to be my home, but now it's ours. Hearing this, Lu Qingji let go again, and dove into his embrace. Thank you, master. I swear to repay you well. I will never leave you. The boy's voice sounded both sincere and bright, but he couldn't see the dark light flickering in his eyes. At that moment, Lu Qingji had already made up his mind. He would live his entire life for his master. Apart from his master, no one could make him die. After Luo Shu left, Lu Qingji lay in bed, unable to calm his emotions for a long time. Excited, he rolled on the bed. Such a great immortal actually became his master. And he is the only one's master. Who would have thought the bed couldn't handle his antics? With a crack, it broke. The bed collapsed, leaving Lu Qingji, who had never slept in a bed, dumbfounded. Could the bed be this flimsy? What should I do about this? I don't know what to do. I wonder if there's a reason to ask the master. He quietly entered the study. At this moment, the master was already fast asleep. It was just that the fat cat sleeping with the master was particularly annoying. He picked up the fat cat and tossed it aside. Then he climbed onto the master's bed. He burrowed into the master's quilt, looking at the master's sleeping face, breathing in the scent that belongs to the master. Lu Qingji fell asleep happily. But the next day, Luo Chu felt sore all over from a night of sleep. What was hanging on him? He turned his head to take a glance, and it completely woke him up. Lu Qingji. Why is he here? This scene made him unable to help but recall his last spring dream. His face instantly turned red with embarrassment, looking again at the sleeping Zai, who was still drooling. What was he thinking about? Zai is only 14 years old now. How could he possibly have those thoughts? He must have been startled. He doesn't dare to sleep alone. Unfortunately, this clingy little one is like a handfish. After much effort, Luo Chu finally pulled him off the bed. Lu Qingji also suddenly woke up. Luo Chu rubbed the little one's head, indicating that he could sleep a bit longer. But the little one only wanted to stay with his master. Being this clingy won't do. Luo Chu pushed him away. The order is to go to the back mountain and cultivate for half an hour. Come back after it's over. Although Lu Qingji was reluctant, he still obediently complied. However, as soon as he arrived at the back mountain, he was confronted and troubled by other sealed disciples. Lu Qingji didn't want to waste words with others, but they were jealous because Lu Qingji was accepted by Luo as a personal disciple. Not only did he insult him with words, but he also tore apart the entry-level heart method given to him by his master. Lu Chengzi, feeling provoked, looked up again, his eyes filled with killing intent. Just as he was about to make a move, he suddenly heard the sound of Shisu behind him. It was the footsteps of his master. Lu Qingji slightly curled his lips. In an instant, he withdrew the murderous intent he had just shown. He then took on a weak and easily bullied appearance. A few disciples saw his sudden change. They couldn't help but surround him, punching and kicking. They also scolded him for being born lowly, not worthy of being a disciple of Luo Chuzen. The next moment, it was indeed as Lu Qingji had anticipated. Luo Chu appeared before everyone. You say he is unworthy. Do you think you are worthy? The group of disciples trembled in fear from Luo Chu's imposing presence. However, Luo Chu did not continue to punish them. Instead, he walked up to Lu Qingji and questioned, "Is this how you represent me as your master?" Lu Qingji was not expecting his scheme to backfire. Luo Chuyen said that being overly weak and yielding will only make others more arrogant. Do you understand? Lu Qingji was spoken to directly. In the next moment, Yading replied, understood. He propped himself up, stood up, and threw a punch. Gone was the slightest hint of weakness from before. In just a few moves, he had thoroughly beaten the disciple who insulted him. Until Luo Chuyen nodded in satisfaction. Only then did Lu Qingji stop his actions, chased away the nitpicking disciple. Lu Qingji naturally couldn't miss the chance to act cute with her master. She once again threw herself into Luo Chu's arms, crying like a little puppy. Luo Chu sighed helplessly. She pushed away the clingy one, patiently said to Qingji, "Since I have taken you as my disciple, you are the best. In the future, you don't have to bear such things alone. You can tell the master." Lu Qingji smiled brightly. "Will the master always be with me from now on?" "Of course." At this moment, Luo Chu thought the kid was afraid of being abandoned again and felt uneasy. He readily answered his question, but he didn't expect that. The main antagonist in the original text was not a simple child from the very beginning. After Lu Qingji was accepted as Luo Chu's disciple, the warm and ordinary life of master and apprentice didn't last long. Soon it was time for him to go down the mountain for training. 3 years passed. Lu Qingji hadn't returned even once. Luo Chu, who had gotten used to being waited on, was almost growing mushrooms on the main peak. Whenever she thought of Zizai's thoughtful care, Luo Chu couldn't help but admire her own brilliant strategy. In order to live comfortably, live happily, it turns out that clinging tightly to his thigh is the best strategy. As soon as the words fell, a cheerful youthful voice reached my ears. Who did the master say to cling to? Whoever comes, comes. Lu Qingji has actually returned. After 3 years apart, the once small disciple has grown into a handsome young man. He approaches Luo Chu with a smile, calling out to his master. It's been a long time. The disciple misses his master dearly and is excited. Just as Luo Chu wants to have a good chat with him, he is suddenly pulled into a hug by the disciple. In these 3 years, every day without seeing the master feels like 3 autumns. Luo Chu was completely unaware of his disciple's feelings for him. He was held for a whole incense stick's worth of time. He still wouldn't let go. Only then did Luo Chu push Lu Qingji away. You're already an adult now. Why do you still like to act spoiled like when you were a child? Lu Qingji, who was pushed away, was momentarily taken aback. The next moment, a strange voice was heard. Not only did Tian Tian change for Master Luo Chu, but she also prepared lunch for Master. Lu Qingji suddenly felt sour. However, Luo Chu had not yet noticed his abnormality. In a gentle voice, she introduced, "This is Zigui, my disciple I took in 2 years ago. He is also your junior." Zigui Zuisong greeted, "Hello, senior brother." Lu Qingji felt 100 displeasures in his heart. His master actually has another dog. Unable to bear it, he turned to leave. Even when Luo Chu invited him to dinner, he brushed her off. "Master can eat by himself. I'm tired. I'm going back to my room to rest." Luo Chu had never seen Qingji treat her like this. She didn't expect that after 3 years apart, her obedient disciple would become distant with her. After Lu Qingji returned to Qingya Peak, he still took the initiative to handle all the matters of the peak. He took care of Luo Chu as attentively as before, but because he was still harboring resentment, his attitude towards Luo Chu was very distant, even wanting to say a few more words. Lu Qingji is unwilling. Luo Chu is gloomy and unhappy. The villain's thoughts are always difficult to guess. Lu Qingji has a cold face towards the master. Inside, it's even worse for him. With no one to confide in, he has no choice but to go to the bamboo forest to practice swordsmanship and vent his anger. The sword of Lu Qing is ruthless and merciless. With a single swing, it draws the admiration of Ziqing passing through the bamboo forest. He is so excited that he wants to practice swordplay with his senior brother. However, Lu Qing is already upset about this extra junior brother. He eagerly approaches him. Lu Qing is even more displeased. With a swing of his sword, he strikes at the bamboo behind Ziqing. Zigui was startled and asked, "Senior brother, do you not like me?" Lu Qingji replied dismissively, "No," but Zigui believed it to be true. "That's good. Although we have never met, Master often talks about you, senior brother. I really admire you." Upon hearing this, Lu Qingji hesitated and turned back. "What did the master say to you?" "Zigui is purely kind. The master said that senior brother not only looks good, but also takes everything seriously. Although he suffered a lot as a child, senior brother is a really good person." Lu Qingji exclaimed, "How wonderful." Zigui opened his arms wide. His strokes are just so amazing. Seeing his adorable and innocent appearance, Lu Qingji couldn't help but smile. Setting aside past grievance, he ruffled Zigui's hair. "Next time, I'll teach you to practice swordsmanship. I have something to attend to today, so I'm leaving early." Lu Qingji immediately came to Luo Chu's room. Luo Chu was taking a nap. He quietly walked to the bedside. At this moment, the resentment in his heart had dissipated. He murmured an apology to his master for the deliberate coldness over the past few days. But even though he understood that his master was not seeking someone new, the possessiveness in his heart was still growing. How could master not say a word to him? and just taken other disciples as students. Lu Qingji's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, unconsciously climbing onto Master's bed just like when he was a child. He gazed at Master's sleeping face. He really wanted to kiss him. At the last moment, when he was on the brink of despair, his rationality stopped his eager heart. He respected Master. I love my master and want my master, but I don't want to make my master angry. When Luo Chu woke up, Lu Qingji was no longer by his side. He didn't know what had happened. It had just been a long time since he slept so peacefully. He had just begun to regain his senses, when the system task popped up before him. The next task is unexpectedly for him to personally use the cold spring umbrella on orange juice. The disciple is rolling on the bed while holding onto the master's clothes. When he opens his eyes, the master is unexpectedly right in front of him. Lu Qingji feels a pang of guilt and sits up quickly. At this moment, Luo Chu's emotions are a roller coaster. You must know that he has just received the task of using the cold spring umbrella on his disciple. Unexpectedly, before he even started, the disciple is already filled with feelings of spring. The situation became quite awkward. After a long time, Luo Chu forced himself to act as if nothing happened. I'm sorry for the interruption, I will leave now. But unexpectedly, the disciple took the initiative to hold the master's hand. Not feeling ashamed at all. Master, please don't go. Witnessing such an astonishing disciple, my face was burning hot. Orange juice, let me go first. Crisp orange juice said a firm no. She pulled the master closer. World-honored one, I like you. She showed a clever smile, reaching out to push him away. In a panic, her little hands trembled. The cold spring umbrella hidden in his sleeve was shaken out. With a loud clap, it scattered all over the ground. Lu Qingji crouched down to pick up the cold spring umbrella. His expression was only shocked for a moment. It quickly turned serious. Did the master secretly bring this item to use on his disciple? Luo Chu's face turned even redder after being exposed, loudly rebutting. It's not like I've seen him like this. Lu Cheng is even bolder. Leaning close to Luo Chuhong's flushed ear, he murmured, Master, don't try to deceive me. This is the first time you've lied to your disciple. Upon hearing his words, her heart skipped a beat. He can see through his own thoughts so easily. Were all those past events just orange juice? Do you know something else? The orange juice pill plays with the master's hair. I lightly asked the master in return. Do you know why the world fears those with blue and yellow heterochromia? They say on the surface that my eyes are not strong by nature. They wish they could kill me quickly. In truth, it is fear. Fear that Lan Huan Yidong can see through the soul's power. No one wants their true feelings to be exposed. Lu Qingji speaks nonchalantly, as if this is the most ordinary thing. He gently brushes Luo Chu's face. Luo Chu feels a chill run down her back. He says this. Didn't you notice long ago that you are no longer the original Luo Chu? Lu Qingji gave him no chance to react. He raised the Hanshan umbrella and moved closer. Master, why did you sneak into your disciple's room at midnight? Do you still want to use medicine on your disciple? Luo Chu couldn't even respond with a word. And Lu Qingji was clearly aware of everything in his heart. And yet you want to take the opportunity to tease him. If Master really can't think of a reason, then it must be that you lost your senses for a moment due to desire, wanting to taste your disciple's charm. You're talking nonsense. I would never. Then let's say it's the disciple who is coveting the master's beauty. Lu Qingji lowered his head. He kissed him recklessly. Luo Chu tensed her body. She even forgot how to breathe for a moment. Then she heard Lu Qingji continuously saying he liked the master. Luo Chu couldn't bear it anymore. How dare this rebellious person be so audacious? Lu Qingji, what are you doing? Wake up. But Luo Chu was about to lose her temper. Orange Juice's attitude remains unchanged. Even the apology has to be held onto by the master. Seeing the rebellious disciple approach again, Luo Chuxing feels panicked inside. Is it really okay for the plot to fall apart like this? And Lu Qingji finally noticed the master's anxiety. Only then did he withdraw his hand, no longer continuing. It seems at this time he was still too anxious. Lu Qingji let go of Luo Chua. Suddenly, he stretched out his hand to cast a spell. He erased Luo Chua's stunning memory. Under his strange power, she fell into a deep sleep. What was unpleasant was, it would be better if the master forgot. Then Lu Qingji's expression turned cold. Fat Jew, who was eavesdropping in the corner. That cold spring scatter was given to the master by you. This is definitely the first system that the male lead sees through at a glance. Fat Jew was at a loss. I never expected he could even see the cat's thoughts. In order to save his life, Fat Jew hurriedly pointed to the sky. It's not me, it was him, Lu Qingji, who looked up. Lost in thought. Is it the way of heaven? So it is the way of heaven. Upon hearing this news, a sense of loss flowed through Lu Qingji's heart. He carefully placed his master back on the bed. He leaned down and whispered to the sleeping figure, Master, from now on, will you not? Can you entice your disciple like tonight again? The next day, as the sun set, I woke up as usual, had breakfast with my disciples, completely forgetting what happened last night. The only thing that seemed a bit off was that Feiju looked a bit wilted. But remembering the villain's humble threat, the little system didn't dare to mention it to Luo Chu. It directly helped Luo Chu skip the Hanshan Sen task nervously. Next task. At the Immortal Alliance conference, in front of Lu Qingji, he accepted the male lead, Xiao Chen, as his disciple, and personally granted him the Kunwa sword. Luo Xu's expression instantly became serious. He knows that the Immortal Alliance conference is the turning point of the whole book. The male lead, Xiao Chen, will win the conference, and capture the heart of the female lead, Yuan Mo Li. From this moment on, Lu Qingji will also begin the days of being tormented by the malicious Supreme Lord. Thinking of this, Luo Chu's expression turned melancholic. In 1 month, all the disciples of the sect will participate in the Immortal Alliance conference. Qingji may have some pressure. Luo Chu originally wanted to comfort him in advance. Just do your best. Rank doesn't matter. After all, the outcome of the male lead winning is already predetermined in the book. Unexpectedly, when Lu Cheng heard this, he found the way the world-honored one worried about him truly adorable. To make the world-honored one happy, the champion must know that on the day the Immortal Alliance conference begins, Lu Qingji easily advanced, breaking through the ranks to enter the finals, competing with the young master of the Xiao family, Xiao Chen, for the top spot. What surprised everyone was that Lu Qingji actually defeated the chosen one and won. Xiao Chen easily became the champion. He just wants to hear his master's praise as soon as possible. Little does he know that at this moment, his master is in a dilemma. His task is to accept Xiao Chen as a disciple, and to bestow the Kunwu sword upon him. Accepting a disciple is one thing, but the Kunwu sword is the reward for first place. Now Lu Qingji has won first place, yet he has to insist on awarding the sword to Xiao Chen in front of him. Isn't this forcing someone to do the impossible? I saw the sect leader raise the Kunwu sword, and come before Lu Qingji. Lu Qingji stretched out his hands to thank the sect leader. Unexpectedly, just as the sect leader was about to lower the sword, he was interrupted by someone rushing onto the stage. Seeing the master take the Kunwu sword, Lu Qingji smiled happily. The master must want to personally award me, and teach his disciple who came in first, waiting for the master to praise me. But the master not only ignored me directly, He presented the reward that originally belonged to me to the second place, and wants to accept the second place as his disciple. It's because the second place is the male lead with charisma from the original book. Even though Lu Qingji defeated Xiao Chen to become the champion, Luo Chu also had to follow the development of the original book. Lu Qingji questioned the master in disappointment. Xiao Chen was also very anxious, becoming Luo Chu's disciple. He was naturally willing, but this Kunwu sword should be given to senior brother Lu. Luo Chu's expression was indifferent. This sword does not suit him. He will have other choices. Qingji, what do you think? Lu Qingji walked over with a cold face. Seeing that he hadn't spoken for a long time, he revealed his inner panic. Such unfair treatment. Qingji must be very disappointed right now. Who would have thought that in the next moment? Lu Qingji surprisingly looked up with a smile. It's just a sword. Master can give it to anyone. The crowd was in an uproar. They speculated that Lu Qingji was either insane or foolish. That is the ancient divine sword Kunwu that everyone is fighting over. Luo Chu was completely unaware of the danger hidden beneath Lu Qingji's filial piety. They only felt that Qingji was truly endearing. Then he handed the Kunwu sword to Xiao Chen. At that moment, a voice of discontent suddenly rose from the crowd. Since senior brother Lu has won the championship of them, he should rightfully be granted the Kunwu sword. How could the respected one give this sword to someone else? Luo Chu was puzzled. Turning around, the girl was named Huan Yuan Mo Li. She was indeed the main character of the original book. When the female lead said this, the sect leader nodded in agreement. This move indeed lacks objectivity. If Ru falls into a passive position, things will go on like this. His mission is likely to fail. But with his good disciple, Lu Qingji, around, how could he bear to let his master fall? It's a dilemma. Lu Qingji took the Kunwu sword and handed it to Xiao Chen generously. With a bright smile, the master wants to give you the Kunwu sword. Junior brother, you should accept it well. Even with such a warm smile, a chill rose behind it. At the moment Xiao Chen took the sword suddenly erupted with brilliant light. The sect leader smiled with satisfaction as the Kunwu sword took the initiative to recognize its master. It seems this sword is indeed fated with Xiao Chen. Moreover, Lu Qingji also agrees with this approach. Let's leave it at that. Everyone was just about to head home, but Miss Yuan was not pleased again. Yuan Moli's expression was grim. This sword absolutely cannot be given to Xiao Chen. It turns out he is a reborn person. In his previous life, driven by love, he missed the infatuated male lead, Lu Qingji. In the end, his outcome with Xiao Chen was not happy. In his past life, Xiao Chen used the Kunwu sword to kill the main antagonist, Lu Qingji. Although they weathered storms and became a couple, Xiao Chen could not forget his deceased first love. He revealed his true self. Every night, he was obsessed with women who resembled Luo Chu. In this lifetime, Yuan Moli swore never to repeat the same mistakes. At this moment, Luo Chu was facing the sudden appearance of the clueless female lead, and was feeling overwhelmed. You said I must not give this sword to Xiao Chen. Why not? Yuan Moli was left speechless by the question. She leaned closer to Lu Qingji, hoping for help. Little did he know that in this life, Lu Qingji was completely indifferent to his proactive advances. Instead, she was focused on staring at her master. She even suddenly broke into a silly smile at her master. She was signaling him with her eyes, thinking to herself, your beloved has taken the initiative. Why are you still not getting it? Meanwhile, Lu Qingji thought her master had something in his eye. She leaned in to blow into her master's eye. Yuan Moli was about to explode with anger. He was a lapdog in his last life, yet he is so cold to him now. Instead, he is so friendly to that vicious master. Luo Chu took the initiative to distance himself from Lu Qingji, to avoid making Yuan Moli feel disgusted, thinking that since the female lead is so proactive this time, he might as well go with the flow. Luo Chu skipped the topic of the Kunwu sword, and directly asked Yuan Moli if she would be willing to be her disciple. The crowd was once again stunned. What is going on here? Such an action caused Lu Qingji, who had just been cheerful, to change his expression. In order to gain the opportunity to get closer to Lu Qingji, Yuan Moli nodded and agreed. Luo Chu felt very gratified. Now the main characters have all become his apprentices. Even if Lu Cheng's needle turns dark in the future, he will still have a safeguard. Luo Chu took his apprentices back to Qinye Feng. Meanwhile, the male lead, Xiao Chen, looked completely bewildered. He always felt that this original girl held a strong hostility towards him. After returning to Qinye Feng, until nightfall, after holding in his thoughts all day, Lu Qingji sneaked into his master's room as usual. With the heart of a thief but no courage, he approached his master's face and questioned him. You already have me. So why do you still want to take in more disciples? Since your love is so abundant, why not just give it all to your disciple? Lu Qingji madly murmured to his sleeping master. Disciple loves you, really loves you so much. Suddenly, a shadow appeared behind him. The shadow made a series of sounds like orange branches. He doesn't care about you at all. Why do you deceive yourself in front of his bed every night? Lu Qingji's expression darkened. How could you be here? The shadow grew even more rampant. As long as there is demon blood flowing in your body, no matter when, no matter where, I can always find you, the demon companion. And this woman will only become a stumbling block on your path to becoming the supreme powerhouse. Kill her quickly. Kill everyone here. You are the supreme of the demon clan. Lu Qingji remained completely unfazed. He decisively drew his sword and slashed through the dark wings. Get back to your abyss. No matter who you are, you cannot lay a finger on the supreme. But that shadow would not be killed by mere contracts. Its voice still echoed in Lu Qingji's ears. You can't kill me. If you insist on acting, your beloved world-honored one will suffer. Lu Qingji's heart sank. He looked at the one lying on the bed. At this moment, they were tightly closing their eyes, trembling and constantly murmuring about the pain. It hurt so much. Lu Qingji was so anxious that he pressed himself against the world-honored one. He cursed that shadow baby, but the shadow continued to threaten him. You can now seriously consider my suggestion. After saying this, the shadow vanished into thin air, leaving Lu Qingji, who was gritting his teeth in anger, and Luo Chu, who was lying in bed trapped in a nightmare. At that moment, Luo Chu dreamed of the thing he feared the most in this life. The disciple sneaks into the master's bed every night, then quietly slips away before dawn. But that night, the master had a nightmare. He was bound all over by cold iron chains. It was clearly just a dream, but the pain throughout his body felt extremely real. As he looked up, a familiar figure approached quickly. Lu Qingji wore his usual smile. The voice was chilling to the bone. I didn't expect my master to be so tough. Still not dead. In the next moment, the disciple drew his weapon. You go for your master's throat. Die. With a swift motion, Luo Chu woke up in terror, chilled to the bone, only daring to attack. For a moment, she couldn't tell the difference between dreams and reality. Seeing Lu Qingji approaching her, Luo Chu swatted his hand away. Don't touch me. Lu Qingji felt extremely wronged. What on earth did the master dream about? To be so afraid of him? Luo Chu sat on the bed, unable to calm down for a long time. Finally calming down, he realized that his earlier actions were inappropriate. He apologized while holding his disciple's hand. The orange juice must have hurt you, right? Lu Qing didn't show any grievance at all, gently grasping his master's hand in return. He smiled brightly. He seemed completely opposite to the one in Luo Chu's dream. It's okay, master. It doesn't hurt at all. Luo Chu awkwardly withdrew her hand. She changed the subject, suddenly bringing up yesterday's meeting, where he just accepted Xiao Chen and Yuan Mo Li as his disciples. It would be more appropriate for them to move to Qingya Peak as well. Luo Chu said this quite grandly, but still, there were a few selfish thoughts. After that nightmare, Luo Chu felt increasingly uneasy. She thought having 2 more people around would provide more security. Little did she know that her actions would only provoke and teach her disciples possessiveness. Lu Qingji lowered his head, muttering to himself. After a long while, he finally looked up with a smile again. What the master said is true. The disciple understood. Then, without giving Luo Chu a chance to respond, suddenly stood up and took the initiative to take on the task of tidying up the room. Seeing Luo Chu's shadow, he immediately turned around with a sullen face and strode away. The blood ant had made up her mind. I want to ask master for a reward. Lu Qingji arrived at the room. He painstakingly tidied up the place for the upcoming junior brothers and sisters. Luo Chujian saw him working hard. She proactively brought him tea to remind him to take a break. Just as she was about to leave, she caught sight of a big monster hidden under the table. Luo Chujian had been most afraid of mice her whole life. Startled, he cast a spell and directly split the table. But this mouse was exceptionally agile. Indeed, Luo Chu's continuous attacks hadn't touched it at all. At that moment, Lu Qingji walked in to comfort his startled master. Luo Chu instinctively dove into his disciple's arms. Qingji, quickly catch it. Release the culprit behind the mouse. Lu Qingji himself did not expect that the usually intimidating Lord Luo Chuzhen would actually be so afraid of a mere beast. He originally just wanted his master to ask for help from him, but he didn't expect the effect to be this good. Lu Qingji smiled proudly. Master, don't worry. I have my disciple here. The cunning disciple tightly clings to the master, gently conjures a spell, and just like that, the mouse meets its end, taking advantage for quite a while. Only then does Lu Qingji release Luo Chu. Master, don't be afraid. You can open your eyes now. Luo Chu lets out a long sigh of relief. Facing the disciple with a radiant smile, Luo Chu awkwardly turned around, feeling utterly embarrassed. Lu Qingji's smile grew wider. Don't worry, master. Your disciple just didn't see anything. Luo Chu felt utterly ashamed. Lu Qingji pressed on. Master, are you going to scold your disciple? Disciple really didn't see anything. Lu Qingji understands that master has a weak reputation, and besides, they also took advantage. Seeing that it was time to stop, Lu Qingji turned to ask master if she wanted to try the snacks disciple just made. With a way out, Luo Chu also relaxed. Then let's just have a taste. This round of scheming, the disciple knows when to be flexible, easily grasping the master, directly winning effortlessly. A few days later, a new training begins for the disciples in the Celestial Manor. The ancient underworld dungeon is also the key plot point in the original text regarding Lu Qingji's fall into darkness. Originally, this training was meant for the disciples only, but the revealed master actually transformed into the appearance of female disciple Zhang Sisi, infiltrating Lu Qingji's side, just to prevent the plot from repeating itself. However, the seemingly flawless disguise is revealed. Even if it deceived the sect leader's eyes, it still could not escape Lu Qingji's notice. Lu Qingji merely glanced at junior sister Zhang, and immediately noticed something unusual about her. So, in front of everyone, Lu Shixiao, who usually ignores female disciples, actually took the initiative to grab junior sister Zhang's hand. I didn't expect that Zhang Shimi would also come to participate in this experience. Luo Chu was taken aback at first. His disciple was surprisingly so carefree outside. He then forced a smile and called out to Lu Shixiao. Unexpectedly, upon hearing this title, Lu Qingji leaned in closer. He lowered his voice and asked back, Shixiao. Luo Chu's head was buzzing. I only felt that my disguise could never be seen through. Just as I wanted to respond, Lu Qingji continued to withdraw actively. This was the first time Luo Chu saw him flirting. I never expected that the obedient disciple in front of the master was actually a master in the realm of romance outside. Suddenly, the leader's voice called for silence, pulling everyone's thoughts back. He raised his hand to cast a spell. A huge magic circle appeared out of nowhere beneath his feet. With a whoosh, the trial began. The ancient realm of the Elves. On the first layer, atop a gloomy and dilapidated city tower, the 3 large characters Hua Jianhua stood out prominently. As everyone was at a loss, Lu Qingji took the initiative to hold Zhang Shimi's hand. The master has been so scheming to give it away for free. Lu Qingji naturally couldn't miss this opportunity to be a good senior brother. When it came time to split the rooms at night, he actually requested to share a room with Xiao Shimi. The other disciples found it absurd upon hearing this. Men and women should not be close. How can you sleep in the same room? Lu Qingji had a righteous expression. I considered that Zhang Shimi is a weakling. In danger, she cannot protect herself. I shared a room with her to ensure her safety. The frail Zhang Shimi was too weak to argue. Little did she expect that as soon as she entered the room, Lu Qingji became bolder. He directly pulled her into his embrace. Luo Chu only felt that this little brat had bad intentions. She pulled her hand out, wanting to push him away. But then, he suddenly yanked her back down in front of the door. Luo Chu was so shocked she couldn't speak. She had actually been kissed by her disciple. Lu Qingji mumbled, junior sister, under his breath. But in his heart, he was calling for his master, Luo Chu, no matter how much he might. I didn't expect that my disciple would turn out to be a big scoundrel who kisses everyone. With a swift motion, I slapped him and scolded him for being a lecher. At that moment, Lu Qingji covered the side of his face that had been slapped. He smiled and apologized. Junior sister, you resemble a dear friend of mine quite a bit. I couldn't help myself. I truly apologize for offending you. I'm really sorry. Luo Chu listened to this ridiculous reason, angrily speechless. You sleep on the floor tonight. If you dare to say anything again, I won't spare you. Luo Chu, furious, burrowed into the blanket. As soon as her head hit the pillow, she fell asleep. When Lu Qingji returned after washing up, he saw his sleeping master. My feelings are quite complicated. I just went through something so easily forced upon me, and I can fall asleep so quickly. Master really has no guard up at all. Lu Qingji consciously crawled into the master's bed. In the long night, I can only spend it with the master. I slept until noon. A strange laugh suddenly came from outside the house. He was jolted awake. He turned around. To his surprise, Lu Qingji was pretending to lean on the bed. But at that moment, he couldn't care less about why this brat climbed onto the bed. He quickly covered Lu Qingji's mouth. Don't make a sound. Did you hear anything? His master rarely took the initiative to approach Lu Qingji. I couldn't care about anything else. I did hear a sound. I heard it. There was a woman laughing. Lu Qingji shook her head. She leaned close to Luo Chu's chest. I heard it. It was the heartbeat of my junior sister. Luo Chu felt both shy and angry. Is this person with a mouth full of nonsense really his obedient disciple? She got out of bed. She no longer paid him any attention. She pushed open the window, looking down with lowered eyes. It was midnight. The dark street was surprisingly accompanied by a celebration. A look of shock appeared in her heart. She closed the window, turning back to the orange juice. Something feels off outside. Hurry and come down with me to take a look. The orange juice lightly replied to listen to the junior sister, but didn't expose it. She revealed that she forgot to change the window. The master, in a hurry, forgot to call the senior brother, and instead called for orange juice. It's really adorable how the master tries to impersonate others but shows flaws. When the two went downstairs, they found many fellow disciples who had come for training were already here. With a sudden wow, the townsfolk suddenly began to attack. The disciples raised their guard, hiding in a concealed place. Lu Cheng looked at the hollow-eyed crowd outside, and spoke softly. They are no longer living beings. Someone is manipulating all of this from behind. This country is called Huajian. It was destroyed 300 years ago. Everything we see here is an illusion. After speaking, Lu Cheng only pointed to the crowd in the distance. The original Jasmine, who had just been injured by the townspeople, had already been assimilated. She joined their ranks. They kept repeating that the princess and General Chu were a perfect match. They marched in unison towards the palace along with the celebratory procession. Earlier for quite a while, the General Chu they spoke of was wearing a red wedding robe, walking down slowly from the city tower. The moment he appeared, the Kunwu sword of the original male lead, Xiao Chen, hummed. The Kunwu divine sword only reacts like this when it senses demonic energy. In other words, this General Chu has fallen into darkness. I saw him reverently bend down to pick up the bride from the palanquin. Just then, a gust of cold wind blew the bride's veil away, revealing a terrifying skeleton. Everyone was suddenly filled with dread. General Chu, however, did not stop for a moment. He walked straight towards the palace. Seeing the common people following the general to the palace, Luo Chu realized that something was wrong. He remembered that the ending of the painted story from Huajian country was that the general sacrificed thousands of lives to resurrect the tragically killed princess. And now, Yuan Emoli was still among the crowd of common people. The dangerous disciples rushed into the palace to save people. As soon as they entered the main hall, a mysterious black mist rose in the palace. Everyone scattered. Fortunately, Lu Qingji held on to Luo Chu's hand all the way, so they were not separated. However, the next moment, the black mist grew even more rampant. In a moment of carelessness, they were pulled apart on the spot. Luo Chu wanted to pull Lu Qingji back, but the forces of the two black mists continually pulled in opposite directions. With just her own strength, she couldn't break free at all. Just then, a voice from the system echoed in her mind. Hidden storyline triggered. Past events of the Flower Kingdom. The host will become Princess Wensheng of the Flower Kingdom from 300 years ago. She will personally experience her past. Princess Wensheng once went out of the palace to give alms during a famine. She saved a boy who was about to starve to death. She named him Chu Jia. The boy never forgot the princess's great kindness. He enlisted in the army and achieved great military success. Later, he was bestowed the title of Protector General. The love story between the princess and the general was once an enviable tale, but this happened in chaotic times. The fate of the Huajian Kingdom was uncertain. Their destinies were destined to be difficult and troubled. When Luo Chu woke up again, she had already become Princess Wensheng, yet her own consciousness still remained. But he could not interfere with Princess Wensheng's original actions. The first thing Wensheng did upon waking was secretly leave the palace to find Chu Jia. However, what surprised Luo Chu was that in Huajian country, Chu Jia actually had an identical face to Lu Qingji. The princess that the general vowed to protect with his life is now being shared by the citizens of the entire nation. On the eve of Chu Jia's expedition, he vowed to Princess Wensheng that he would return triumphant from battle. It was the time when she, in her splendid bridal attire, proudly welcomed the prince. The princess, from the city tower, reluctantly watched the young general's troops set out. She believed that one day this young man would return in glory to marry her. But the general died in countless battles. The warrior returned after 10 years. Princess Wensheng waited for 3 whole years but never saw Chu Jia return. Meanwhile, a terrible plague broke out in Huajian country. For a time, the people were suffering. There were even rumors among the common folk that princess meat could cure all ailments. The emperor was deeply worried. He consulted the prime minister for a solution. The only solution now is to kill the princess. To preserve the princess with the blood of the leftover women's clan. Collecting flesh and blood can cure all ailments. The emperor found it absurd upon hearing this. His daughter was not something that could be sacrificed so casually. Faced with the emperor's outright rejection, the scheming chancellor no longer pretended. He incited all the officials in the palace, and, before their eyes, personally killed the emperor on the dragon throne. He removed the false face, taking on the emperor's appearance in his place. The chancellor, disguised as the emperor, arrived in the princess's chamber, revealing the news of the plague that longs to be concealed and is about to burst, and with a face full of sorrow, conveyed the news of Chu Jia's death in battle. Princess Wensheng has always cared for the people. She has long been shaken by the rumors of her flesh and blood. Moreover, now the only traitor is gone. In despair, she voluntarily offered herself to save Huajian, to rescue the people tormented by the plague. The imposter emperor's scheme. Upon succeeding, he immediately issues an edict, and faces the people gathering beneath the city gate. The princess is willing to offer herself to save them. The next day, Princess Wensheng dons the ceremonial garb of the highest etiquette. Her expression is completely vacant, while the people below the city tower continuously chant about the princess's blood, healing all ailments, princess's flesh. Bao Changsheng looked down at the greedy faces. A gentle smile appeared on his face. He announced loudly that Wensheng had been supported by the people of Huajian for 16 years. Now, in this critical moment of survival, how could I live in vain? Today, Wensheng will repay the kindness of the people of Huajian with his flesh and blood. The expressions of the people grew even more greedy. In their eyes, Wensheng was no longer human, but rather the remedy that will soon cure their suffering. With a soft thud, Wensheng took his own life with a sword. Until the very last moment, his heart was filled with relief. He had no more attachments now. He could peacefully go find a Jia. Wensheng fell from a high place just like that. What awaited him were claws of magic devoid of humanity. The princess fell to the ground. The common people surged forward. They firmly believed that just one bite would lead to complete recovery. Unexpectedly, at that moment, General Chu Jia returned victorious from battle, leading the army through the city gates. He saw the common folk in chaos among the flowers. He dismounted. He asked what had happened. Blood saw the man with blood at the corner of his mouth pull out a piece of the princess's flesh to please her. It can cure the plague. General, you should eat a piece too. Chu Jia's face instantly changed. He suppressed his killing intent and anger. In disbelief, you asked whose meat this was. You heard that person laughingly reply, the princess belongs to the leftover maiden clan. Flesh can cure all diseases. The princess cares for the people. She willingly. Chu Jia struck down with a heavy palm, ending her unfinished words. Seeing the general kill in public, the common people gasped in surprise. They immediately stopped fighting for food. They fled in panic. Chu Jia trembled as he approached the corpse of the plague victim. His expression was filled with despair to the extreme, until the moment he got closer. He witnessed with his own eyes on this white bone the faintly discernible features of the living person. Chu Jia has gone mad, completely mad. He risked his life on the battlefield, all just to return in glory and marry the princess. In the end, what he protected with his life are nothing but deranged people, coveting the princess's flesh and blood. Chu Jia holds the princess's corpse, a long held towards the sky. One breath enters the devil, roaring and killing the tens of thousands of heroic soldiers behind. Leave none alive. It turns out that 300 years ago in the Flower Between country, such a tragic story actually happened. Luo's soul was pulled away from the plagued body. A sense of fear arose in his heart. Those possessed can be terrifying like this. If it were orange juice, there would truly be a day of possession. Suddenly, a sharp pain struck his head, as if someone was calling him. Outside the illusion at this moment, Lu Qingji was holding Luo Chu, continuously calling out. Meanwhile, the creature behind him kept reminding him of his good master. But in the dream, you who are possessed, are really scared, aren't you? Luo Chu let out a muffled groan. Lu Qing became more anxious. He swung his sword. That shadow's existence must not be discovered by the master. In the next moment, Luo Chu struggled to open her eyes. Only then did Chang's worry call bring Luo Chu back to reality. Luo Chu finally pulled his thoughts back. He was still pretending for now. Zhang Cixi immediately replied, Senior brother. I'm fine, but senior brother, you look very unwell. What's wrong with you? Do you feel unwell anywhere? Lu Qingji was startled. He feared that his master would discover the aura of the demon on him. Unexpectedly, Luo Chu directly lifted his face. Foreheads touched. Normal body temperature. No fever. Why does he look so pale? Realizing that his master was concerned about him, Lu Qingji finally let down his guard. The expression suddenly became serious. Junior sister, do you really think all demons are irredeemably evil? Luo Shu didn't expect him to ask that suddenly, but since he asked, he must set a correct worldview for his disciple. After all, in the original story, Lu Qingji's descent into darkness was as terrifying as the plight of a nation being slaughtered. Luo Chu marvels that there is no absolute good or evil in this world. The most important thing is not cultivating immortality or magic. It is whether they hold kindness in their hearts. Listening to Luo Chu speak these words, it made Lu Qingji feel that he was exceptionally radiant at this moment. The ghostly hands of fate suddenly kissed the person in front of him who made his heart race. The general has held on to the princess's bones for 300 years, unwilling to let go. Every night, he would be supported by the throngs of living dead citizens to marry this corpse of a bride that cannot be revived. Even if repeated 1,000 times, it would still be in vain. He continues night after night to sacrifice the lives of the living, in an attempt to exchange for a wisp of his beloved soul. Until this day, in the celestial abode, the disciples entered the illusion of the flower realm. After Luo Chu and Lu Qingji personally experienced the journey of the flower realm, they came before the willingly enchanted General Chu Jia, only to see Yuan Jasmine placed beside the corpse of the plague princess, about to become the new sacrifice. Realizing that the sacrifice was about to be interrupted, Chu Jia swung his sword and leaped up. Lu Qing stepped forward to confront him. In just a few moves, he subdued Chu Jia to the ground, squatting down in front of him. There is a sorrowful tone in the words. Chu Jia, I know you seek to resurrect the princess, yet you continuously lead the living into the formation to sacrifice their souls. But what you do not know is, the premise for resurrection by this method is that the deceased must have harbored a strong resentment in life. However, Princess Wenxing willingly appeared for the people, and holds no resentment. Yet you offer a heartfelt plea. But it completely infuriated Chu Jia. Nonsense, how could the princess have done it voluntarily? From the emperor, down to the common people, they are all the culprits who forced him to death. Luo Zhu helplessly shook her head. No one understands better than him, who has experienced it all once. Chu Jia, you are wrong. The real murderer is the prime minister of Huajian kingdom. He killed the emperor. He deceived the princess. He incited the people. You have killed the innocent people whom the princess protected with her life. The cruel truth made Chu Jia tremble all over. 2 streams of blood tears slid down from beneath the mask. Chu Jia once again supported the princess's bones. Is it difficult? Impossible, impossible. That's how it is. The princess will definitely have another chance to wake up. Luo Chu's heart began to ache. In order to bring down the kingdom of Huajian, Ren Wang planned everything. I'm afraid even this possession array was something he told Chu Jia about. Luo Chu truly couldn't bear it in his heart. He bit through his fingertip. He planned to help this pair of ill-fated lovers once. Luo Chu approached the corpse. He silently recited a spell, at the cost of great spiritual and mental energy. He used the art of the soul. Golden light gradually rose. A warm power roams, bringing back the scattered souls of Princess Wenxing to the world. The soul slowly opens its eyes, and softly calls out Ajia. Things have changed. A reunion after 300 years causes Chu Jia to momentarily withdraw the demonic energy around him. Your Highness Princess Wenxing's eyes are filled with tears. It's so great to see Ajia one more time, in front of the princess. Chu Jia seems to have turned back into that shy boy he once was. He covers his face. Your Highness, please don't look at me. I look terrible right now. Princess Wenxing gently removes his mask. Nonsense, you look just as good as before. Ajia, the flower between nations. It was not your intention. You were deceived. I do not hate you if there is a next life. I only wish for us to share simple meals, and stay together for a lifetime. The time for souls to return is fleeting. Before the soul scatters, Wenxing reached out his nearly transparent hand towards Chu Jia. Ba Jia, I'm leaving. Come, hug me. Chu Jia tightly embraced the ethereal figure before him. He then heard Wenxing's ethereal voice leave him with one last message. Goodbye, my husband. Princess Wenxing dissipated before Chu Jia. In Chu Jia's heart-wrenching cries of despair, he self-destructed his primordial spirit. It also dissipated along with Wenxing. In the end, there were 2 soft sounds. Only 2 golden pills remained, representing their past existence. Seeing this, Luo Chu's emotions were extremely complicated, due to the consumption of the soul technique, combined with the immense turmoil in his heart. A wave of dizziness is about to make him fall. Lu Qingji steadily catches him. Junior sister actually exhausts her internal energy for 2 unrelated people, always thinking of others in everything. How can she not consider her own safety a bit more? Back when she was the master, Luo Chu had never seen him like this before. Qingji is really angry about this. Luo Chu held his hand. He was unexpectedly shaken off by him. Lu Qingji squatted down silently. He picked up the 2 golden pills that had fallen on the ground. Luo Chu was incredibly sure. This time, he was really angry. Hey, don't be angry. I'm fine, aren't I? In the next moment, an angry Lu Qingji fiercely grabbed the hand that he had just thrown away. He pulled her closer and kissed her domineeringly. A kiss at the slightest disagreement. Luo Chu was taken aback by the sudden kiss. She wanted to push him away, but Lu Qingji showed no intention of letting go. As the kiss deepened, Luo Chu could feel his spiritual energy flowing continuously into her body. After a long time, Lu Qingji finally released him with a serious expression. If you act recklessly without regard for your own safety, I will punish you like this. Do you understand? This really is a domineering CEO persona. He left her breathless and confused after the kiss. After a moment, she murmured back that she understood. At least the orange juice was showing concern for herself. One can't be too harsh. as the atmosphere between the two became ambiguous. The female lead, Yuan Moli, finally woke up from the back. The sickly male supporting character ignored his white moonlight female lead. He only loved to cling to the villainous master. The female lead even took the initiative to climb onto his bed. She almost got killed by the sickly boy with a knife. Lin Yuan, the female lead, has been reborn, convinced that Lu Qingji would love her as fiercely as in their past life. Seeing Lu Qingji constantly surrounding Zhang Shimi all day long, he even had to feed her personally during meals. Yuan Moli was almost driven mad with jealousy. This Zhang Qianshan who appeared out of nowhere, with looks and figure inferior to her own. What right does she have to take away the affection that should belong to her? Even to give Zhang Sisi a bit of a lesson. He secretly added something to his drink, just to test the waters. How could he fall in love? He was already infatuated with a stranger. He knew very well that this junior sister Zhang was just a disguise of his beloved master. Naturally, he would cherish her carefully. He held her in the palm of his hand. The despicable methods of Yuan Mali, Lu Qingji can see through at a glance. She snatched away the tea that master was about to drink, and dumped it out with a swoosh. She didn't leave Yuan Mali any face at all. Junior sister, don't drink. This tea isn't clean. If you want tea, just have mine. Yuan Moli's face was extremely dark. She still had to put on a nonchalant appearance. Feigning fullness, she got up and left. But inside, she was filled with resentment. At night, everyone returned to their rooms to rest. Lu Qing shut the door behind him. A sneer appeared on his face. There were mice in his room. She lifted the bed curtain. Yuan Moli was half reclining in the middle with a charming posture. With a shy expression, she called her Orange Juice. Orange Juice, I have feelings for you. Ever since I met you, you have filled my heart. Yuan Moli was still holding on to Lu Qingji's waist. She was about to lean in closer. Who would have thought, with a soft sound? What responded to her was a cold blade piercing her body. Lu Qingji was clearly enraged. She wore a gloomy expression. She spoke softly. Miss Yuan, is this fun? Yuan Moli couldn't believe it. He had already ignited the Valley of Indulgence in this room. Besides sharing a passionate night with him, there is no other way to connect. Why is Lu Qingji completely unaffected? In the next moment, Lu Qingji fiercely pinches Yuan Moli's chin. Her face, though smiling, is truly chilling. The witch clan's poison techniques are always despicable and lowly. If I were to expose your identity as a witch, how do you think they would view you? Everything was exposed, and the original Jasmine was in a panic. Please, don't tell anyone about the orange juice. The benefits of the orange juice are even greater. Grasping the dagger that has pierced her chest, she deepened the pressure once again. Tonight, I also caught a corpse placed in Zhang Shimi's cup. Who do you think put it there? Yuan Mei was scared out of her wits. She trembled and shook her head, refusing to admit it. But all of this was already crystal clear to Lu Qingji. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Yuan Mei's methods. You can target whoever you want. I couldn't care less. It's a pity you chose to provoke the wrong person. The orange juice stirred the blade in hand. After a long while, it was finally withdrawn. A heart-wrenching pain. Yuan Jasmine gasped for breath in pain, unable to utter another word. Watching him struggle for breath. Only then did the orange juice contentedly clean the dirt off the blade. This time it's just a small warning for you. If there's a next time, it won't be so simple. After dealing with the mice, Lu Qingji arrived at Luo Chu's room. Hearing the faint sound, Luo Chu slightly opened her eyes. Lu Qingji had already snuggled into her bedding. He naturally called out, "Junior sister," as if this were a perfectly normal thing to do. Then she snuggled into Luo Chu's arms. With a blissful expression, she rubbed against his neck. Luo Chu couldn't help but feel annoyed. "You love to snuggle so much. Are you a little cat? This habit of yours." Hearing the term master, Lu Qingji raised an eyebrow and repeated it. In the moment of confusion, she suddenly became clear-headed. "Coco, you heard wrong. How could senior brother be here?" Lu Qingji didn't expose it. Instead, she continued to act as she pleased under the guise of being a senior. "Junior sister, I just had an unpleasant encounter with a woman. It was inappropriate." Feeling completely baffled, he touched your chest. Lu Qingji hugged herself tightly, suddenly looking a bit aggrieved. "Woo-woo, he touched my outer garment." Luo Chu instantly got angry. "Kick the drama queen off the bed. Get back to your room and sleep. Otherwise, you'll solve it on the floor tonight." Luo Chu pouted and turned away. Lu Qingji decided to make a bed on the ground. With a playful smile, he said goodnight to him. Unbeknownst to them, some indescribable events were about to unfold that night. Lu Qingji lay down quietly. Just as he fell asleep, a hand lightly brushed against his face. He caught hold of them. Who is the newcomer? Upon lifting his gaze, it turned out to be Luo Chu. "Master, are you not sleeping? What are you trying to do?" Teaching the disciple actually made him wet the bed. If there's anyone to blame, it can only be last night's master, who was truly enchanting. Lu Qingji had just fallen asleep. Luo Chu, who had just kicked him off the bed, actually blushed and moved closer to Qingji. "Is it alright for me to sleep with you tonight, my master?" She even took the initiative to wrap her arms around his neck, getting closer and closer. Lu Qingji's heart was about to leap out. Yet he still pretended to be serious and pushed Luo Chu away. "Master, you seem to be afraid of Li, don't you?" Luo Chu's tone carried a hint of flirtation. "Hasn't Qingji always been beneficial to me? At this moment, I'm right in your arms. Why pretend to be reserved?" Speaking of which, Luo Chuyang feigned disappointment. "Since Qingji is unwilling, I won't force it either." The usually ruthless and decisive Lu Qingji is surprisingly hesitant at a critical moment. It shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be. Seeing that he was really about to leave, Lu Qingji finally stopped holding back. He pulled the person in front of him back. This time, it was the master who first teased the disciple. "Master, you mustn't go back on your word." The one kernel of the hibiscus counts was that night, Lu Qingji finally fulfilled his heart's desire. The only regret is that this is a spring dream born from the Valley of Infatuation. The next morning, Lu Qingji regained his thoughts and got up. The master, who had just appeared in his dream, was now quietly sleeping, disguised as a little junior sister. Lu Qingji tiptoed to the bedside, wanting to savor the taste of the dream. Unexpectedly, a loud shout suddenly came from outside. Luo Chu suddenly woke up. She saw Lu Qingji's handsome face close at hand. Senior brother Nie and Lu Qingji stood up with a smile. He directly skipped over the matter he wanted to take advantage of. It seems something happened outside. "Junior sister, quickly get up and let's go take a look." As the two of them stepped out, they saw a commotion in front of the house not far away. The disciples with rosy faces were discussing. It seemed that Sister Yuan was robbed of her medicine by Brother Pei. Luo Zhu was instantly stunned. What is going on with this plot twist? Yuan Moli is the main female character, after all. How could she end up with a side character so inexplicably? At that moment, Yuan Moli was sitting on the bed, sobbing incessantly. It was as if she had truly suffered a great injustice. But deep down, there was a surge of resentment. Unexpectedly, the enchanting valley he created did not ensnare Lu Qingji. Instead, he fell victim to it himself. He had no choice but to find a scapegoat to relieve himself. But now, in front of all the disciples of the sect, he had to pretend to be the victim. He couldn't let them see even the slightest hint. Everyone present was left speechless in shock. Senior Pei doesn't seem like the kind of unreasonable person at all. How could he unjustly tarnish a young lady's reputation? At this moment, Lu Qingji suddenly spoke up, suggesting that perhaps Miss Yuan couldn't help herself. That's why she emphasized the nurturing. Such an astonishing and outrageous statement left everyone even more shocked. Just then, "Actually, I heard something last night. I happened to pass by this room." I heard it, junior sister Yuan. But he kept saying he was comfortable. He didn't seem reluctant at all. When the original Jasmine was publicly identified, she instantly exploded. You're talking nonsense. It was clearly him forcing me to accompany him. Upon hearing this, the crowd gradually regained their composure. They then remembered. This room clearly belongs to Brother Lu. The atmosphere fell silent for a moment. Lu Qingji once again made a shocking statement. Last night, in order to protect Sister Zhang, he slept in his room. As for Sister Yuan, she might have come here for some fun. With that said, a cold glint flashed in Lu Qingji's eyes, glaring fiercely at Yuan Moli, implying that what I said is true. Yuan Shimi met Lu Qingji's ruthless gaze. Yuan Moli felt a chill down her back. The chest that had been wounded by him after last night's failed seduction still ached faintly. She could only grit her teeth and utter a yes. Hearing Yuan Moli's admission, Lu Qingji finally withdrew his killing intent. Signal for everyone to stop gossiping. Everyone go home. Luo Chu was still immersed in the female lead's broken character and couldn't let go. Instinctively grabbing her disciple's hand, she made a quick escape. It's better for such a pure and upright kid not to be led astray. The ancient and modern chapters of Huang Quan come to a close. The next day, everyone set out to find the exit of the illusion. They encountered an old man playing chess on the road, someone they hadn't seen before. As they approached, the old man already knew their intentions. If they wanted to leave, they had to play a game with him. If they won, they could learn the way out. Otherwise, they would never be able to escape in their lifetime. As everyone hesitated, the old man decisively raised his hand and pointed towards Lu Qingji. I saved you, now, play a game with me. At the moment Lu Qingji's hand touched the black piece on the chessboard, he unexpectedly heard the old man's voice in his mind. I also fell in love with your master. The two of them ventured into an endless sea of masters. In the vast center of the chessboard, the old man gently reminded the young man, without haste, that loving someone not of this world is destined to pay a tremendous price. This obsession will ultimately drag you into an abyss. Let go of your fixation. Come with me. Your cultivation will reach a level where you can look down upon the world. The old man spoke with utmost sincerity, but was firmly rejected by Lu Qingji. All I care about is my master. If I cannot be with him for a lifetime, what meaning is there in my cultivation, no matter how high? Even if I find myself in hell, as long as my master is there, that is my paradise. With a soft thud, the last black piece falls. No regrets in making a move. Senior, I can see that you have lost. The old man let out a long sigh. I will keep my promise. He waved his hand to cast a spell, opening the exit to the ancient abyss of Huang Quan. With a thunderous roar, a phantom door appeared on the bridge. Looking back, the old man in front of the chessboard has vanished without a trace. Only a golden elixir is left behind. It seems this is also part of the test. Just as everyone completes the trial, and is about to leave the illusion, the long-lost system once again rings in Luo Chu's mind with a new task. Please, host, personally dig out the heart's blood of the orange juice, to treat the male lead, Xiao Chen's wounds, and to let Xiao Chen know of your improper intentions towards him. Luo Chu felt it was too sudden. Besides, wasn't Xiao Chen just standing there fine? She turned to look at Xiao Chen's position. At the same time, there was a loud bang. A figure flashed by. Xiao Chen is really in trouble.